Welcome to the Early Wedge Tuesday Best Bet Show. I'm your host, Eric Cohen. Glad to have you back. It is the Houston Open preview show. But first, let's talk about these what we did last week. Pretty darn good. Sia's on fire right now. Jacob Richmond got a share of that FRL. Good job with that, Sia. We went 4 for 4 in matchups. You did in finishing positions. I see you're in the bottom of the screen here, how you were smiling as you should be with that. And the crew hit 4 out of 5 matchups. So great job. Let's bring them in right now. We have the golf genius, as I like to call him, from CBS Sports. It is Patrick McDonald. We have the host of the Early Edge every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. The great, as I just talked about, Sia Nejad. And, of course, you can find this guy everywhere, including on SiriusXM, BetMGM, and probably more places. He is the best storyteller on the cast by a wide margin. It is Jason Sobel. All right, gentlemen, make sure just want to remind everyone, hit the like button, subscribe to the SportsLine YouTube channel, and we always appreciate that. Let's get right into it. It's the Houston Open. Sia, you get the first word after a great last week. First of all, are you excited for this event, or is this like a Mexico Open Part 2 for you?
Well, I'm always excited about like the Mexico Open too. I mean, I actually like the events where there's lesser talent at the top. Unfortunately, we've got a couple of guys at the top. I do want to point out, it's interesting, we'll get to it in a second, that matchups aren't out, like tournament matchups aren't out of a lot of the books yet. And so I just want to point out that, if you're watching this channel, the Early Edge is on this channel too. So we'll be dishing out SportsLine Discord, but also on the Early Edge tomorrow, some tournament matchups, round matchups, things of that nature. But are we going into storylines, EC? Is that what we're doing?
Let's get right to it. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Because I think it's interesting because, you look at Scottie Scheffler and you look at Rory McIlroy, and a couple of tournaments ago, I was saying bet in the without market. And frankly, I don't hate doing that this tournament either, but I'm not going to do it. I think one of the prevailing themes, though, is that guys like Scottie, and Jason, you and I talked about this on the live show, guys like Scottie and guys like Rory are just kind of like tuning up. And I just think that's an interesting narrative because ultimately, what are we talking about, right?
We talking about practice, not a game. We talking about practice.
And I think from a betting standpoint, Allen Iverson says it best. Like, I wonder if that's a narrative from a betting standpoint that we're just going to like fall into because we want to pretend that Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy aren't going to play their best. I think they are. I mean, I think we're not talking about practice. I think these guys are out here to win, obviously, tuning up at the same time. I'd love everybody's opinion on this ultimately, but it does scare me to bet down the board, which I'm absolutely doing without, betting on Scottie or without going into the without Scottie and Rory market. But that's what I'm going to do. I actually think there's a lot of value here. But again, these guys are here to win.
Patrick, you just had one word for your storyline. That's a first on this show.
Yeah, Scottie Scheffler. I guess that's two, but he is the most interesting man in this field, right? You think about this time last year, he was running through the world of golf, winning the API, winning the Players' Championship. He gets slayed by Steven Jaeger there on the 72nd hole, missed a 5-footer. So there's a few things I'd love to see from Scottie Scheffler this week in his last start before the Masters, right? He's got that left miss going. The body's not quite as fluid as it was in 2024. I would like to see that out of the bag. I'd like to see him shore up that 3 to 6 foot range. That's been pretty bad for him, even during his putting improvement. I'd like to see him in contention also. So I think it's a big week for Scottie. I know Rory's name's obviously circled here, but I think it's a bit more important for Scottie.
Sobel, one thing I've known about you from afar for years is you're not afraid to, go against the grain. And maybe Scottie or Rory are not your picks this week, huh?
They are not, but I can understand it if people want to go after them. I did a little research, guys. Didn't want to hit everybody over the head with some numbers right off the bat, but I'm going to do it anyway. In the last year and 3 weeks, there have been 44 PGA Tour events. 11 of them, official ones, have been won by Scottie or Rory. Now, 20 of those, they didn't play in, neither one of them. So of the 24 that have had either Scottie and or Rory in the field, 11 have been won by one of those guys. Now, that's a percentage of nearly half based on their implied odds this week, implied probability, with their opening odds right now. Combined, it's a 37.1% chance where my math is. But they've actually had an actual probability over the last 13 months of 45.8%. Again, there are narratives at play. They're using this more as a tune-up than some of those events where they're obviously going out there trying to win. But I still think there's maybe a little bit of an edge to go with Scotty and Rory. And so unlike Sia said, and I am not proud of this, but I'm going to give you guys some plays outrights later in the show in the without Scotty and Rory market, because I think the numbers are still good. And I just want to avoid those landmines.
I don't hate that at all, for the record.
No, and it makes a ton of sense. Now, we'll talk more about Scotty and Rory as we go along. My storyline was actually inspired by a tweet from one. Which player's Masters fate is on the line or are on the line this week? Patrick, do tell. You tweeted about this morning. Some players that we should keep an eye on who need to play well to get into the big one in a couple weeks.
Okay. Sorry if my face is flashing right now. I got the Atlanta Drive strobe light entrance right next to me. A huge night for us trying to lock down that championship title. But there's a few notables, I would say. I didn't realize how far Ricky Fowler dropped in the OWGR. He probably needs like a win across these next 2 weeks, honestly, to get into the Masters. Siwoo Kim is in the mid 60s. I think he needs like a top 3. Michael Kim's been playing a ton of golf, 8 in a row, 10 out of 11. He needs a top 40-ish finish, I believe. And then Ben Griffin, he hasn't taken a week off all year. Wasn't in the Century, and then he's just started playing golf, and he has not quit since. So it seems like the gas tank is on empty these last couple of weeks, missing the cut. So needs a big week, obviously. Something around a top 20 finish to get it done. And
that's what we want to hear. Go ahead, Sobel. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Speaking of Masters, guys, I reached out to one of the traders for BetMGM who told me that absolutely in play this week, if Scotty looks underwhelming again, if Rory has a big week, wins or at least contends, plays really well, we could see a different favorite by the time we get to Augusta in 2 weeks.
No, there's no way Rory McIlroy could be the favorite here at Augusta. You really think so? Do you really think that's probable? Wow.
Yeah. Now, I think it probably takes a win or a very serious title contention from Rory this week. He's got all the steam moving into Augusta, and it takes something, like I said, underwhelming from Scotty. If Rory finishes third and Scotty's sixth this week, that's not what we're talking about. It's going to take Rory winning or finishing somewhere in the top 5 and Scotty in 48th place this week and looking really frustrated and not looking happy with his game.
So you guys in the chat are doing a great job teeing up the next segment, which is FRLs. And I'm actually going to start with Sobel on this one because I see Rob in the chat says Min-Woo Lee wins his first tour event. I don't know if we're going that far, but Sobel has a different spin on it. All right. What are we thinking for FRL?
He's just got to win Thursday, and that would be okay with me. I've got him for FRL this week, as I've mentioned on the show, and I will continue to mention every single week when we talk about first-round leader bets. I'm looking for volatility. I'm looking for high variance. I'm looking for players that can step on the gas pedal and go low for one single day. Min-Woo Lee has never played this event before, so there are some unknowns, but obviously drives it great, putts it really well. He's top 15 putting on the PGA Tour so far this year. That's the combination that will be my central theme throughout this show. And guys that I'm looking at are have that good driver putter combo going for him coming into this one. And then the other guy, you mentioned his name, Ricky Fowler, trying to get into the Masters, trying to get into signature events if he doesn't need a sponsor exemption to get into all of them. A lot of stuff on the line for Ricky. Tends to play pretty well when his back is up against the wall historically. So I like Ricky at that big number, 80-1. Again, looking for some volatility in the first round.
Let's stick with the 80-1s, a player that I actually am going to bet in a couple places this week. Mackenzie Hughes. Patrick, tell us about him.
Yeah, my boy PGA Splits, Ron Kloss, tweeted out a little Mackenzie Hughes nugget at the onset of the week. He's third at Memorial Park in total strokes gained. Obviously, Jason talked about volatility. I'm looking for about 5 strokes gained on the greens Thursday from Mackenzie Hughes in just an average ball striking performance, which is good in his standards. So couple ways we could get there, I think, with Hughes, but just catching lightning in the bottle on the green seems to be the best route. And at 80-1 at a place he's comfortable at, and his ball striking numbers are getting a little bit better here over the last couple weeks. So 80-1, I like it a lot.
Sia, you are the FRL machine. You got a slice of it last week with Bridgman. You got 4 players this week, including a guy at the top who's really underperforming this year in Sahith.
Underperforming, just like one Victor Hovland. Now, I'm not comparing the talent levels, but I did see signs from Sahith Theegala last week, and this does feel like a very good course fit. I believe his history here is decent. You know, the Sahith Theegala thing is interesting because I've seen him play good rounds this year, and clearly when it goes awry for him, we saw him beat up his club last week. You know, he just loses his confidence. But this is the type of course where I think he can sort of lose it with the driver a little bit and still be okay. And we know the short game is there for Sahith. So it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Sahith kind of does the Victor Hovland thing this week. More on that later. Taylor Moore grades out really well for me. I like him at 60-1. We'll talk about him a little bit more later as well. And then, you know, we go to the sort of like much longer shots. Andrew Novak at 75-1. He's not really getting any respect, certainly not in the outright market. But this guy can play. And by the way, all of these guys, when you look at their short game, checks out. And most of these guys from an off the tee standpoint, including Ryan Fox at 90-1, certainly checks out. Ryan Fox is your classic first round leader guy, because there's just no way Ryan Fox is going to win this tournament, in my opinion, in spite of the fact that he's been pretty good over the last two tournaments. But he can absolutely spike for a round, and he's a good course fit. I like him at 90-1 to be your first round leader.
All right, let's get one of these, at least get a share of one of these, and continue the hot success in this segment. Patrick is our resident weather man or of sorts. Joseph has a question in the chat. He says, the latest weather update has Wednesday through Sunday with rain. Will that impact the odds? Could we see a tee time wave advantage? What do you got for us? Anything? I mean, we saw the wave advantage
did I
out last
become
week. Yeah.
The weather guy?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But
you're best friends with Cantori. What do you mean?
I mean,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Best friends. I think that's a great question for the live show tomorrow morning. Once we have more information.
What a great sell.
By the way, guys. I was a little checked out when I was out of town last Friday, Saturday. We talked so much about the tee time differentials and the draws last week. It turned out to be nothing. Correct.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, okay. Now, you don't have to hide it. Like that was everyone. That was like the entire world. I mean, the odds were shifting based on where a guy's tee time was, and maybe we all learned our lesson there, or maybe we just keep going back to it. I don't know, but after last week, after we all cried wolf last week, I am not going to bite and take the bait.
Well, see, there's an even bigger problem with the wave advantage as it stands right now, and it's Tuesday night. You're right, Patrick. Maybe tomorrow morning we have more info, but because of the rain, so last week there was wind, right? And we thought we knew where the wind was coming in. This week there's rain, and I haven't looked in terms of what the level of precipitation is. There's potential thunderstorms too. So even if you lock in on a wave, you could absolutely get some sort of a delay here, which just throws everything off. So I'm not saying don't pay attention to it, but we're too early to tell in terms of a wind or wave advantage.
Let me also say this. The Florida swing was where trends were meant to be broken. At the Cognizant, nobody since 2010 had one being outside of the top 10 after day two, and Joe Highsmith makes the cut on the number and finds a way to win. At the Players Championship, what was it, 14 of 16, had the early late tee times. That got busted. That's now 2 years in a row it busted. And then last week we saw we were going this hole, the wind, the hole, you can't have a late early tee time. And Victor Hovland wins, and Justin Thomas finishes second. And I'm sure, go ahead, Sia. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I get very excited when we're talking golf betting. And this has never happened before, but they literally, because I've been checking every like 3 minutes, they literally just came out with tournament matchups at some of the major books. So I just want everybody to know that we're kind of like short in that area. And I know you're going to, but I wanted everybody to know I'm going to be looking during the show so I can maybe add one to this show. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
It pays to watch live. I'll say that. But coming up after we hear from one of our sponsors, we're going to talk about top nationality plays. There may not be a lot of matchups, but we're going around the world after we hear from our sponsor.
Guys, can you feel it? Legends were born here. History was made here. These are hallowed grounds.
Hallowed grounds? The NCIS squad room?
Well, I wasn't talking about that, but I was talking about Augusta National.
All right. It's finally time for the Masters. I hear it's a tradition unlike any other.
Hey, and speaking of the Masters, this April, CBS Sports brings you more of the Masters than ever before. 14 hours of live coverage from Augusta National on Saturday and Sunday, beginning each day at noon Eastern on Paramount Plus, and continuing at 2 on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. All right, let's get into it. It is time for tournament matchups, of which there aren't many, but Sobel, you do have one matchup with one of Patrick's favorite golfers, Davis Thompson.
Yeah, and he's going to be one of my favorite golfers this week, too. Actually, I really like Davis Thompson. At the beginning of the year, I said that He's a guy I thought would make a run to get onto Keegan Bradley's U.S. Ryder Cup team. He's been very underwhelming for the first 2.5 months of the season, but he's coming off a nice one last week, or 2 weeks ago at the Players' Championship, finishing his share of 10th place. The tee to green game looked really good. He was 21st here at the Houston Open last year. I'm going to be talking even more about Davis Thompson in just a little bit, but yeah, I'm going to take him in a matchup here against finding it. I'll take him against anybody. I'll take him against JJ Spawn. JJ Spawn. There we go. I found it. JJ Spawn, who obviously, look, JJ Spawn is going to be much shorter in the markets right now after not only a good start to the season, but getting into a playoff at the Players' Championship. This is not a JJ Spawn type of course, so I'm okay fading him this week. So it's a classic matchup where I like one guy and I don't like the other guy, and so I'm going to bet the guy that I like over the guy that I don't like. That's kind of how we're trying to do things around here. I'm also going with top Swede, Jesper Svensson. This is a late ad for me. Started looking at him again. I'm looking at the driver putter combination. Thompson's got it. Jesper Svensson has it. If you guys go to Data Golf, we're looking at things going to the upper left. We're looking at everything pointing in that direction. And that's where the driver putter is. And Svensson's got it, hits it a long way and puts it really well. The other stuff is not terrible. There's some guys. I was looking at Rico Hoey, who's the worst putter on the PGA Tour. He's got some numbers going in the right direction, some numbers going in the very poor direction. But Jesper Svensson, everything else looks pretty good too. So I'll take him at plus 180 over his fellow Swedes, Norlander, Norman, and Vieding.
All right, Sia, let's stick with the European theme. You're going to go to top German with one of your favorite players who we know, if you watched the show last year, Sia was betting this guy over and over and over, and then he won here in Houston.
I feel like this is a Cantori, Patrick McDonald weather situation, because I don't know that I bet him that much last year. But, listen, your memory might be better than mine in this case.
Only once. It was Houston Open week, I believe.
Yes, of course. I'll tell you what, I just want everybody to know I haven't found a matchup. They haven't released all of them yet. So I'm scanning that. More on that later. Yeah, I'm going to go with Steven Jaeger as top German plus 110. So the other people he's up against, it's Matty Schmid, who's been, actually, he's a pretty good course fit, and he was pretty good here last year as well. Jeremy Paul, who has been pretty great, but he hasn't played here, and I don't know that this is as good of a course fit as it is for Jaeger and Matty Schmid. And then this guy, Rosenmuller, I think it's Thomas Rosenmuller, who I quite frankly haven't heard much of. So this feels like a 3-ball with Steven Jaeger, Matty Schmid, and of course Jeremy Paul. Jeremy Paul's lack of experience here and just lack of pedigree and lack of course fit, I think kind of rules him out. So I'm taking Steven Jaeger, who, by the way, not only won last year, but I believe was T9 the year before that. He's always been good here. And I just think he's such a good course fit. And what's interesting is if you look at his metrics, we know he has the short game and he typically has the off the tee game. But if you were to do like your standard modeling and you looked at off the tee, it wouldn't be good for Steven Jaeger. And it's mostly because at the API and at, let's see, the Players, he lost a ton off the tee, and that happens at those events. So I'm not really going to hold that against him. I'm sure there was a lot of water involved in some of that stuff. So I just think he's a little, I wouldn't say under the radar because he's the defending champ, but from an odds standpoint, I think he's a little under the radar. So I'm going to take him as top German at plus 110.
And you'll have more matchups, obviously, in the SportsLine Discord. If you're a member, make sure to check that out, as well as on the Early Edge on Wednesday morning. Sia will bring some more. I'm going to stay in Europe here, going Aaron Rai as the top Englishman. He has to beat Harry Hall, Matt Wallace, Danny Willett, David Skins, and Paul Waring. And we're getting plus 120 getting for a guy that has finishes of 19th, 7th, and 7th over the last 3 years. I will talk more about him later in the show, but absolutely love this at plus 120. And then how could I not do top Canadian after hitting Corey Connors 3 weeks in a row on this show? All he has to do is beat Taylor Pendrith, Nick Taylor, Adam Hadwin, Adam Svensson, and Ben Silverman. We're getting plus 350 from a guy that Patrick talked about earlier in the show in Mackenzie Hughes. And he's been pretty darn good here. He had a top 10 here and two other top 20s in 4 trips. So he's also popped with the putter with events of plus 7 and plus 8 shots gained on the field, as Patrick referenced. I don't know if he's going 5 on Thursday in particular, but if he does, then you're going to hit an 80-1, and I'm going to feel pretty darn good about my top Canadian. So let's go 4 weeks in a row with this one. I know David Talk in the chat was saying Nick Taylor or Pendrith earlier. I'm fading both of those. Let's go for Mackenzie Hughes. All right, it is time for now. We're going to switch over to finishing positions, one of my favorite parts. And Patrick, you have 3 top 40s this week. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, some tough beats last week. McGreevy falling out of the top 40 on Sunday. Griot. Oh my God.
11-1.
In the mix. He was inside the top 20 until the final 5 holes.
Yeah, that was exciting. You had him at 600-1, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Something silly.
I was about to quit my job. Just kidding. I'd never quit this show with you guys. So I went heavy because the matchups weren't out yet. Jake Knapp, top 40 at even money. Didn't play great last week, but you put Jake Knapp on a driver-heavy golf course, he's going to let that dog eat, and he was playing great before the Valspar Championship, so don't want to make that too complicated. Like Sia said, Novak's playing great golf, in particular the driver, and it's a big driver week. I looked to his play at Torrey Pines, another driver-heavy golf course, and something that he could probably draw on. I know it's a different grass type and all that jazz, but it's all kind of the same to me. So even money for him at top 40. And then Lee Hodges, remember this guy? We haven't seen him play since the Phoenix Open, I believe.
What?
We were all on him at the beginning of the Florida Swing, the Cognizant Classic. Withdrew right before that tournament and just hasn't been seen since. So highly questionable what his form is like, but at plus 110, top 40, he was playing great before then. I'm willing to take a chance at that.
Sia, let's stick with the top 40 theme. A player that we're all going to talk about, a spoiler alert, in the next segment with outrights, but Alex Smalley.
All right. Sorry, I'm scanning. I think there might be a round 1 3 ball that I like. More on that later. So I've taken a pretty conservative approach with the finishing positions, but I've been hitting them. So I'm going to stick with that. I hit them both last week, and I think Joe Highsmith was actually one of the 2 last week. I'm going to run that back, top 40, minus 118. This guy has been really good. You know how, younger PGA Tour guys like this, they win something like the Cognizant Classic like Joe Highsmith did, and then they have a few bad tournaments in a row because they're kind of like resting on their win and their laurels. Like Joe Highsmith hasn't done that. He's been very good since that time. And in this field, once you get past the top 2 guys, I really think the next 30 guys are pretty much all the same. I think Highsmith is really good. Top 40, minus 118. I love that. And Alex Smalley, I think we're going to talk about him throughout the show. I think he's a good outright, but I also think top 40 at minus 118. I mean, I almost look at these like matchups in terms of like the number I'm getting. I think Alex Smalley is rating out way too well not to finish inside the top 40.
All right, let's continue the top 40 theme. Sobel, give us Max McGreevy, who cost Patrick some money last week.
Yeah, I'm just doing this to haunt Patrick, so it feels even worse that he lost on his McGreevy top 40 money last week. I'm going to go back to it this week. I think he's a good player. I like everything I've seen from him. I know he kind of ran out of steam last week, but should be a decent course fit for this one. And I will be with Patrick on Jake Knapp. Just driver-heavy golf course. He's playing well right now. Last year, he missed the cut here, but he'd made 6 in a row. That included a win and a couple of top 5s. I think he just ran out of steam when he got to this golf tournament. Looking ahead to his first Masters, that's understandable. But right now, he's playing some good golf, so I'll go top 20. I'll even go a little bit bigger than Patrick did on Knapp this week at plus 300.
Going with a couple of top 20s. Maverick McNeely, nobody's talking about him. Is he going to be all right mentally after kind of coughing up that one at Torrey Pines, the Genesis, missed his next 2 cuts? But I'll tell you what, he has some pretty darn good, finishes this season. Obviously, he's a top 20 player in the field. I'm talking about outside of the one at the Genesis. And he has, 3 finishes in the top 30 here, 2 of them in the top 20. We're getting plus 190 with ties, so I'll take my chances on McNeely in a weaker field to finish high and kind of get his head right. And a guy that we're going to talk about a little bit more as well is Max Grazerman, top 20 at plus 225. Before a disastrous 2 rounds at the Players 2 weeks ago, he had 3 straight top 25s after 4 top 10s between October and January because his putting's been excellent. He's gained on the field in 7 of 9 events in 2025. And last season in Houston on his debut, a T7 gained 5 strokes putting. Can he do it again? Can he contend for the win? We'll talk about that next. Also, coming up in our outright segment, well, the do not bet list claimed its first casualty, but it's time for some additions after we hear from one of our
Was it Tommy Fleetwood? No.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
All right, this is painful right here. I really wish we could have avoided it. I tried to get through the Florida swing, but the do not bet list claimed his first casualty. Matt, there it is. Victor Hovland has a line through it, but we're going to make some additions here. So we lost Hovland. I've seen enough of Will Zalatoris. We're not picking him to win anymore.
Whoa.
I can't do it. I'm out.
Wow.
I'm out, guys. I'm out. I can't do that. And then Xander Schauffele was awesome on approach. But the rest of his game, and maybe he's doing well in TGL tonight, and Patrick will tell me something else. And then he lips out putts to tie last night. Anything under 10-1, I'm out on Xander Schauffele this year. Now, last year I said that about Scotty Scheffler, and he proceeded to win 5 times after I put him on this list at 10-1. So tread carefully. But we don't have to worry about Keith Mitchell. We talked about him last week. Sobel, I think you liked him. No more? You with me?
I don't know. I don't remember mentioning Keith Mitchell's name at all. I don't think I've ever bet on him.
No, never. How about Tommy Fleetwood? Yeah, he's not winning anytime soon either. I think we're out on him. The rest of the list, I feel like, Ricky's playing better. I mean, these TGL guys, Ricky and Cantlay showing something, Cam Young showing something. You guys told me last week.
Guys, Patrick Cantlay is going to win a golf tournament.
I mean, he hasn't 2.5 years or something.
At some point. I mean, they leave us on air long enough. He's going to win a golf tournament. You would think. The rest of this list, I feel pretty good about. Patrick, who is the next one who is going to spoil this list, in your opinion?
Probably Shane Lowry at Hilton Head. I'll say that.
Interesting. Okay.
Ooh, like
Sobel, your thoughts? Anybody that you think who's next to get the line through their name?
Well, I am taking a guy for an outright this week, so I wouldn't mind if not to preempt myself here, but if Sahith goes out and gets that win, I wouldn't mind that.
That's the correct answer. Sahith in 5 days ruins your list yet again.
Okay, well, we're going to get right to it then, and I guess that means we have to start with Sobel here. Well, no, wait a second, because Sobel, you and I have kind of the same thought process. Patrick, we're going to start with you because you're not ducking Scheffler and McIlroy like Sobel and I are, which is fine. I mean, nothing wrong with that. So tell us, Alex Smalley, you're all in here.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I think Scotty Scheffler is going to win this golf tournament. So I went a little light, right? More long shot-esque. Alex Smalley, this guy was awesome until last week, was in that final group with Rory McIlroy, the final round at the Players' Championship. 66-1 for a guy striking it as well as him, and has good history here. So not overthinking that. And then Kevin Yu played great last week at the Valspar Championship. I think he was paired with Justin Thomas that final day. He pummels the golf ball, hits it a very long way, quietly playing some really steady golf. Iron play is popping. Just needs the short game to come around a little bit. But I think 90-1 for a guy who won pretty recently this past fall is something I can get behind.
Fair enough. Sia, you are also not ducking Rory and Scotty here, and you're giving us 4 names, including the great Steven Yeager going back-to-back.
Yeah, we're going to go back-to-back on Steven Yeager. I just like the form coming in. I like that. I still feel like he's under the radar because of some bad outings off the tee just a few weeks back. But again, a great course fit, great course history here. Aside from the win, he's still got great course history here beyond that as well. Sahith Theegala, I kind of mentioned this. I'm not going to belabor the point on the front end of the show, but I think from a talent standpoint, Sahith is right up there. Like you could put him third on this list from an odds board standpoint if you wanted to. And instead of JJ Spawn, for example, in terms of talent, like recent form is a different question, but I have seen signs from him. And I think if the confidence is there, which it should be on this course, I absolutely think he can win. Thomas Dietrich was like the first name that I thought of before odds even came out. I was like, I know I'm betting Thomas Dietrich. He won the Phoenix Open, of course. Hasn't been great since. I think this is a good course fit, and I think he has a ton of talent. I think I got this number at 60, to be honest with you. Like it much better there, but it's pretty much the same thing at 55-1. And then Alex Smalley, again, no need to belabor the point. But when I look at like weighted off the tee, weighted short game around the green putter, like Alex Smalley, like really checks the boxes. And I will say this. I am betting these 4 guys, but I know Jason's going to get into the without market. I think I've already bet Smalley in the without market as well on top of my outright bet. And I'm going to do the same with Sahith. I'm not going to do it with all my guys because then I'm just spending too much money. but I just a little sprinkle on the without, so I get something back. But I'm just throwing that out there.
Fair enough. No, it makes a ton of sense. I've always admired the way Sobel bets in reading him for years and listening to him. So he and I think alike. Go ahead, Sobel. What are we doing?
I don't admire anything I'm doing this week. I hate reading that line under my name right there, the winner without market. Come on. Like, it's just raise your hand if you're just being a complete wuss this week and you don't want to get
but I do it too.
This week. I know.
I do it too.
I will tell you guys how to do it right after Sobel gives his stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hate it, but I'm scared of Scotty and Rory. I'll admit it. And as I said off the top of the show, the implied probability for Scotty and Rory actually is in line with their odds. So Scotty's probably the guy. If I had to take one of those two, I agree with Patrick. Scotty probably wins this week, but Davis Thompson, I like the number there. He's starting to play some good golf. This is one of those and maybe Victor Hovland taught us something last week, but if you like a guy, keep betting a guy. I got that advice from a PGA Tour player who doesn't bet on golf himself, but said to me one time, like, if you like a guy and you bet on him and you pick him and he doesn't win, you shouldn't not like him the next week. You should probably go back to that. Even though he burned you and you lost money on him, you should probably go back to that guy because there's a reason you liked him in the first place. That's my take on Davis Thompson. I think he gets a win at some point fairly soon, and so this feels like a really good course fit for him. Sahith, I actually thought Sahith, I get that he hasn't played great golf this year, but I was surprised at how long his odds were this week. I thought he would be shorter than Thompson because Thompson hasn't played great either. But Theegala at this number in the without market looks pretty good to me. And then Max Gracerman, again, another guy with the driver putter combo that I'm looking for, sort of mirrors Wyndham Clark a couple of years ago when he was making his run towards becoming what he's become, a top 10 player and major champion. But Wyndham Clark wasn't a great iron player, had the driver, had the putter, and kind of figured out the other 12 clubs in between. Max Gracerman is starting to do that as well.
Could I interest you guys in Max Gracerman in the without market at 107-1, or Aaron Rye at 56-1, or Alex Smalley at 111-1? Because that's what I locked mine in on. I know I'm crazy. When you bet Challenger tennis overnight and you parlay your golfers, I'm telling you, listen, this is what you got to do. God. Sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. Betting Challenger tennis in South America, do a little homework on it. 10 minutes of homework locks you in. Aaron Rye at 56-1. You're feeling pretty good about that one.
What are the tennis plays?
I locked them in with some guy named Daniel Elahi Galan -3.5.
Oh, he's good.
Some guy named Matheus Pucinelli de Almeida money line at -120. I put those two in there with my golfers to lock it up. Also had the Albot Ramos over 2.5 sets at +135. That was with Gracerman. Yeah,
that was easy money.
Yeah,
fair enough.
It was. I'm telling
you. And these have happened. They already cashed.
Yeah, we're already good. We're good.
Wow.
Now, some weeks I will say this strategy. Okay. Some weeks it doesn't work.
Some weeks you do it, and then you're just like, yeah, I never made those bets technically.
No, I mean, you lose a lot of money trying to get them in, and then you get desperate on Wednesday night, and it's like, oh, I can't wait till Thursday morning. Like, I got to figure this out. Depends on the team. Some weeks you panic. This is a good week. Like, I feel good. My card is in. I'm ready to go.
So by the way, we'll talk. I'll get you on some Polish table tennis at some point. By the way, John Oliver on his HBO show last week tonight was doing a segment on sports betting, and at one point sort of made fun of someone who had bet $35,000 on a Polish table tennis match. And I'm like, okay, they're like, oh, how could you do that? I'm like, well, wait a second. Did he win or lose, first of all? And secondly, if he didn't win, he probably chased it with another one. I mean, this is they're saying it like it was a bad thing. And I'm like, what? I haven't heard any of the bad things about this at all. They were just talking about betting on sports, like, oh, people are losing their money. I'm like, you didn't see the tickets. Let's see the winners out there. So
here's the thing about table tennis. So, living on the West Coast, the table tennis starts later, like 10 o'clock at night, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. You had a rough night making basketball bets. You got to make it back, and you see, Polish table tennis. Yeah, you might want to take I try to stay away from that. I think betting tennis overnight. So you set it, you go to bed, you wake up, hey, I hit this Galan and that Pucinelli, and now I'm locked in with my outright bets. it's a great feeling.
So just to be clear, just to be super clear, betting on ping pong, irresponsible. Betting on challenger tennis overnight to parlay it with an outright golfer, responsible.
Let me explain why.
Get that right?
Ping pong is over in 5 minutes. Like it's literally over in 5 minutes. I mean, in a way, that's a good thing. But the odds, live bet, it's just hard. When tennis, it's a couple hour match. You can do some studying. And no, Hef Sterling, I don't have 35K to put on table tennis. I would put it on.
He has 45K. Next question.
By the way, you were talking some crazy names in the challenger tennis.
Yeah.
In the TT Elite Series, I think it's team. So I don't know what the TT stands for. TT Elite Series, Polish table tennis, guy named Sobel. Anytime I see him on there, I throw a couple bucks on.
I'm thinking TT might be table tennis.
Table tennis, yeah.
Yeah. I was looking for
tonight.
Ping pong, but
he's wearing that. Patrick is wearing that graduation like valedictorian robe. It looks like from my vantage point. So that he's the smart guy right now.
No. Wait a second. Chris in the chat says Danny Brasco is giving out cricket plays. Is that what our Discord has turned into?
No. It's not Discord. Well, it might be Discord. He's giving that out live on the Early Edge, our 10 a.m.
On the Early Edge, giving out a cricket play.
2 cricket plays, one today and one yesterday. And for the record, he did that last year too, and he was pretty darn good at it. So
I mean, Danny's savvy as heck. So I'm not going to argue with that.
He really is. Yeah.
And yes, Jose Honorado in the tennis in the Discord is fantastic. Gives out picks every day. I don't know if he gives the Challenger Series. And no, don't ask me. This was a degenerate Monday night play, and it hit. So I'm feeling good with Smalley, Rye, and Gracerman there. All right, let's move on to long shots. This one, I'm going to start with Sobel here because I literally, I like to follow the PGA Tour and golf. I have never heard ever of this guy that you're giving out at 225. I literally, Toasty, I've heard of it, 250 to 1. Who the heck is this guy at 225 to 1? Never heard of him.
Oh, Quade Cummins.
Cummins was the first ever 4-time All-America for the University of Oklahoma just a few years ago. By the way, if you're looking for guys that we're betting now for long shots, we're going to continue getting bet. Just look at the All-America teams from like 3-4 years ago, and those are all the guys, the Davis Thompsons and the Thigalas and guys like that there we're betting now. Quade Cummins was a fantastic junior player, fantastic collegiate player. I'm a big believer in if you've had success at every other level, at some point you get to the highest level, and you're probably going to have success there as well. It might not be the Jordan Spieth, Colin Morikawa type of success that happens right away, but at some point you're going to be a successful player at the highest level. Quade Cummins is coming. He's playing some good golf right now. Fits this course nicely. Again, the 225 to 1. Is he ready to go win a golf tournament on the PGA Tour? I don't know, but I like him, and we're picking long shots. Let's go really, really long. And then I actually think that's a pretty good number on Toasty, who finished runner-up last year. And we talk about high variance guys. He might be 9 over through 4 and walking off the golf course. He might be 4 under through 4 and leading the golf tournament. You have absolutely no idea what to expect with him, but he's going to smash driver all over the place and played well here last year. It's a driver-heavy golf course. I'll take him at 250 to 1.
Patrick, I am so proud of you. It only took, I think, 5 shows this year, but we finally have a Grayson Sig mention. My heart is full. You can start with him or Nick Taylor. Go for it.
It's the first signature event of the season, finally, here at the Houston Open. Grayson Sig, 250 to 1. You look at him at driver-heavy golf courses so far this year. Torrey Pines, he finished inside the top 10. Mexico Open, he was inside the top 20 as well. A lot of correlation between this golf course and those two. And the iron play and driving has been great. Found the putter a little bit last week too, which is nice. I know the results don't really back it up. So 250, that was like an easy instant click.
Click,
No need to parlay any challenge tour with that. Nick Taylor at 140. I bet on him at Sawgrass. Didn't work out. But a guy who can win, a guy who I liked enough at Sawgrass a couple weeks ago, I'll give it a go. Why not? I had Hughes for a first-round leader, Taylor, a little Canadian thing. Maybe you inspired me, EC, without even knowing. And then finally, Chandler Phillips, 350 to 1. This guy had an all-time scorecard round 1 at Sawgrass. The iron play has been great. He kind of fell off the pace heavily over the weekend there, but hitting the ball really good. And who knows? Just got to hope he catches a heater on the green at 350 to 1.
Let me give you guys just a little tip. I mean, you guys probably all know this, but you always, if you can, keep your bets to under 300 to 1, because above 300 to 1, you get a tax for him every time. So, Patrick, if Chandler Phillips wins, you're getting
Not where I'm betting.
well, fair enough on that. Sia, you don't have to worry about a tax for him with any of these three, even though Danny Walker will be close.
Yeah, I'll start with Danny Walker. The Danny Walker play is literally like a $2 play. You know, he's one of those guys that I think is talented. We saw him actually contend to some degree at the Players. I've been on him since Puerto Rico. He's just a name I just want to keep in my back pocket. So for a couple of bucks, I think he's fine. Now, Jake Knapp and Andrew Novak, a different story. Obviously, my card is pretty big. I'm starting at 45 to 1. It's relative long shots after that. In case anybody cares, I've got like 0.7 units on all of my outrights to win basically like 9 to 10x, just so everybody knows. So I'm kind of like splitting it up that way. But I think Jake Knapp, what's so interesting about him is that we perceived him 4 or 5 months ago as like a bomber off the tee and, you know, can get hot with the putter. Well, that's still true, except for the approach game has really come around. Now, the off the tee game has been a little erratic lately, but I think Jake Knapp is one of those guys that could absolutely surprise here. I think he definitely has the talent. At 80 to 1, I like that. And Andrew Novak checks a lot of boxes. He gains off. He's not super long, but he gains off the tee, and he's really good with the short game. And we've seen him on Sundays be pretty good recently. What was it, about a month, 5 weeks ago? 90 to 1's a pretty big number on a guy like Andrew Novak. When you look at the field and you got Rory and Scotty, let's just hope and pray that they're not in it at the end. It's like everybody else. So I don't think these guys are as long shotty as the numbers look.
By the way, see, I'll point out, because I know a lot of people were talking about Danny Walker at the Players Championship, finishes top 10. A lot of people are like, who is this guy? I haven't seen him before. If there's a good comp for Danny Walker, I actually think it's Jake Knapp. Just a guy that has a sweet swing, hits driver really well. I think that they're very comparable. Knapp, obviously, a year ahead, but I can see Danny Walker kind of following in those footsteps a little bit as he moves forward.
Totally agree.
Good comparison there. I'm taking the easy way out here. I don't know who. I don't go these super long shots. I just do parlays. This one you can find under tournament specials at FanDuel. Rory, Aaron Rye, and Tony Finau has great tournament history here. I believe he won here 2021. And we're getting them top 10 with ties at 24 to 1. I mean, it's not a long shot but for a parlay, if you want to have a little bit of fun, parlay that. I don't know if they'll let you do it with Challenger Tennis. You might want to check the sports book for that, but you can customize that on other sports books. Put your Challenger Tennis, those three guys, probably get that parlay like 75 to 1 or longer if you want. So just throw it out there. This is another part of the show that I'm kind of hesitant to talk about because it's a rough one for me. Now, Sia, you're doing great in one and done. I am embarrassing myself. Look at, Rick's doing okay. McClure's doing okay. Patrick, you and I probably need to pick it up a little bit. Sobel, you're hanging in. I mean, we need to pick it up. I mean, I had a 0 from Ludwig. Then I copied Sia last week just so I didn't get another 0. So check it out. If you're in the Splash Early Wedge one and done pool, we'll put the standings up here every week. Congrats to Rick and Taylor, who lead at 5.4 million. Man, you guys are killing it. So must have had Rory and somebody else last week. So way to go with that. Let's see what we have this week. Can I somehow claw my way back in and get to a third of where Sia is? Probably not. But Sia, okay, you're going to start us off. Who is your OAD pick this week?
I went with Steven Yeager. There were a few guys on my mind, particularly Alex Smalley was in consideration. I don't think I was going to go with Sahith. But again, Yeager, the cool thing about him is that he won last year, but he was really good the year before as well. And I think the off the tee game is definitely going to be there for him this week. And we know the short game is there. To me, other than the narrative, like nobody's going to win back to back, which I understand that narrative, but I mean, it's a new year. It's a new tournament. I think Steven Yeager is really coming in with the right form. So I'll take him.
Jason, Davis Thompson, you've talked a lot about him. Anything to add?
Not really. I like Davis Thompson this week, and he's a guy that I want to use somewhere. I'm not sure there are a lot of golf courses that fit his game as much as this one. He also is a guy that's kind of like right on the edge of getting into all the signature events or not. If he winds up getting into those, well, you're probably not taking him at a harbor town, for instance, at a River Highlands, where, first of all, the courses don't fit his game at all. Secondly, you've got a whole bunch of other really good players to choose from. So if he gets into that schedule where he's playing the best of the best tournaments, there aren't a whole lot of other places to take him. And so I like taking him somewhere, and this seems like the place to do it.
That makes plenty of sense, unless you want to wait for the summer and see if you can defend. Oh, is that the John Deere?
John
See if you
Deere,
can go.
yeah.
Yeah, John Deere, where I had him last year. That was nice to hit that one. Patrick, this listen, I
Just
needed
slide that
I
in
think,
there.
well, it was the last. I think that was the last outright I hit. Was Davis Thompson. So
Okay,
I'm
don't slide that in there.
I'm due. Patrick. I mean, outside of Joaquin Neiman at 8-1, but that doesn't count in
It
live.
counts.
We determined that doesn't count. Jason Day, we haven't talked about him at all in the show. What do you like about him?
He plays well here, and it's kind of just scanning the top of the odds board, and the name was interesting. So producer Josh and I settled on Jay Day coming off the WD at the Players that ruffled some feathers in the DFS industry.
Mine included.
Did it really see you? That affect
Yeah,
you?
I had him in a big lineup, and honestly, I had proper notice. Like everybody knew like 25 minutes beforehand, but I just missed it. I was not paying attention, and so he was in. And I don't even play him that much. That was the real frustration. It's like a guy I don't normally play, and he ruins my biggest lineup. But it happens.
By the way,
I'm-
for DFS this week, I know a lot of people are like, I'm not taking Jason Day again, so he might be low owned. The fact of the matter is, 2 weeks ago at the Players, he had a stomach bug. The whole family had a stomach bug. He was out playing by that weekend, and so there's nothing. It's not like a lingering injury. It's not like his back again. I get it. Jason Day is always susceptible to a late WD, but it shouldn't be something that's affecting him this week. So I actually think, especially for DFS, even if you're not betting on him, but you get some leverage there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons Aaron Rai is one of my favorite golfers on tour is because he wears two gloves, which is something that I did for many years while playing golf. And then I realized, take off the right-handed glove. I was getting made fun of by my friends constantly. And I said it was time to grow up. So Aaron, I don't share that with you anymore, but he looks cool with his two gloves on, and I'm here for it. So gonna go for that. Sia, I love this one in the chat, and I'm gonna come to you for this one. Michael says, if you had to do a round robin with your favorite Houston Open pick, plus your favorite Sweet 16 upset, plus favorite MLB future, what do you got?
Yeah, this is a great question, actually. And I want to answer, I want to give it its proper respect here. Let me just take a second look at my outrights, because I don't necessarily want to rest on my one and done here in terms
Sobel
of
and Patrick, I'm calling on you guys as well. If you guys want, I threw C out there first, but this is a great one. I love anything we can put this together.
So here we go. We are going to go with Steven Yeager to win. Although I am partial to Sahith and Thomas Dietrich, I'm going to go with Steven Yeager to win. Now, my favorite Sweet 16 upset is BYU over Bama. If you watched the early edge this morning, I took the plus 5.5, but I think BYU can upset Alabama. My favorite MLB future, thanks to the future shows that I've been hosting with Matt Snyder, Amags, and Mike McClure, which again is in your early edge feed. I'm going to go with the Texas Rangers to win. What would that be? The AL West at plus, I think it's like plus 230 or something like that. So that's the three gamer. BYU, Rangers to win their division, and Steven Yeager to win this tournament.
Okay. Sobel, you got anything you want to add to it?
Give me, since I'll stay with my Davis Thompson pick, since I've been talking about him all show, give me Davis Thompson top 20 for a favorite bet there. Arkansas to win a money line over Texas Tech, and Bobby Witt AL MVP. How's that sound?
Interesting. Patrick, you got anything?
Oh, this ought to be good. I'm going to go really far out there. I'll say Scotty Scheffler to win this week.
Okay.
Parlayed with Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters. Parlayed with who's left in the Sweet 16?
Arizona's left.
Arizona. Come on, Patrick.
Yeah, that's
they played Duke. Duke's not
the
good.
alt spread on Duke, like minus 30 and a half. That's the one.
That's dirty, Patrick. I'm very disappointed in you. Here's what I would do, okay? I got Aaron Ryan, the without market. I got Michigan to beat Auburn. I didn't go with U of A. I hope you guys are proud. Michigan to beat Auburn. I don't know if that fits in Patrick's which team is further
Michigan's
east criteria.
like kind of like sneaky east, honestly.
Yeah,
Detroit is more east than Atlanta. Did you know that?
Is that right? I actually did not know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
So
either.
that's plus 330. I'm going with my Chicago Cubs to win the NL Central. That pays combined 221 to 1. We don't need a round robin. That is parlay material right there. I just want to point that out. All right, it's time
By
for the
the way,
recap.
speaking of parlays, I have a buddy who I mentioned about a month ago, and I've said it here on the show, that Ludwig is, and he still is as of right now, my Masters pick. My buddy is now in for about six figures in winning parlays if Ludwig should be can cash the last leg of everything. So like this is on me now because I just kind of mentioned him casually to a buddy about, like I said, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and now he has parlayed everything and hit everything.
Oh my gosh.
Just needs Oberg to go win the green jacket.
So my thing was I hit one of those last year, Sobel. I don't know if you knew about this. I had a $16 ticket I placed last March. It was a couple of college basketball games, Celtics to win it all, Dodgers to win it all, Ohio State to win it all, paid $3,500. Now, he did it for probably your buddy a lot more than $16. So give him props.
Different tickets. It's like 15 different tickets where anytime he's doing like an NBA player prop, he's like, oh, and Oberg to win the Masters on the back end of it.
Can we do like a live stream watching the Masters with your buddy on here?
Yeah.
If Ludwig's in contention on Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Let's bring up the recap screen. It is time for Sobel's story time as you guys take a look at the recap screen. What do you got for us this week?
I was thinking Houston Open, so I think I've covered this one twice. One of the times I was deathly sick the entire time, but I believe it was the year that DA Points won. This is 12 years ago. I was speaking with a PGA Tour player who played with DA, and look, I almost feel bad saying it. DA lives right over there. I can almost, can't quite see his house from here, but lives right down the road. Love DA. See him a decent amount just around town. Saw him a few weeks ago. Great guy. I spoke with a player right before that Houston Open. I think it was that week, who told me I played a couple weeks ago. I think it was at the Valspar with DA Points. He is the worst player on the PGA Tour. It just somehow he shot 78 and it looked like it was a 94. He's like, honestly, we came in and I'm sitting there looking at his card and I'm like adding up. I'm like, I think I messed this up because it was so bad. Well, DA Points comes to Houston with a putter that he took out of his mom's old golf bag in the garage and goes and wins the Houston Open just a few weeks later.
That's amazing.
That would be very frustrating for betting purposes.
Yes.
I will say that. But
did not have DA that week.
I wonder what his odds were. Would you have had to fill out a tax form at 300 to 1 for that? I would assume so.
Yeah.
That was like a Jim Herman kind of win.
That one is one of the most sickening wins. I had Siwoo Kim and Billy Horschel that week, and both of them found ways to lose on Sunday. That one I will never forget at the Wyndham Championship. You remember your worst losses more than your best win. At least I do. That one is gross. That is bottom 5 most disgusting. Like I have 2 guys sitting right there to win. One of those 2 guys, and Jim Herman, who finds a way to shoot whatever he did on Sunday.
I'll give you one more. I was sitting at the 19th hole at my club. I'd have to check. It's probably 7 or 8 years ago. And player now, he's on the Corn Ferry Tour now. He's on the PGA Tour at that point. Comes over, he sees I'm watching the golf. It's a Sunday. He's like, oh, who's leading? And I said, Satoshi Kodera. He goes, no way. He goes, dude, or no, this was at Harbor Town. He'd played with him at the Sony. Now you're going to be able to figure out names, but if you really want to. But it was at Harbor Town. And he goes, I played with that dude, and I thought, like, this guy must know somebody, and that's how he got into the field because he's about the worst player I've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah, he's winning this golf tournament. He's about to win it. And he's like, I officially know nothing about golf because I watched him play. I played 2 rounds with him. I was like, this guy's absolutely terrible. And he goes, wins 3 months later.
See, that'd be fun to like hear the behind the scenes talk about the players, like that. It's cool that you and Patrick get some of that. Patrick, do you ever get that where guys will like tell you that certain guys stink?
You get their honest opinions. Like at the players, a lot of the guys were talking about that tree to me, given their honest opinions on that.
I can only imagine. I guarantee if I was playing that hole, I'd hit the tree. Now you as a scratch golfer, that's easy money for you. You're good. All right. Well, that was great. Great show, guys. As always, Patrick, any updates from TGL? Are we riding our Atlanta dream future? Yeah.
Goose eggs right now. Can't cash in. I'm a little nervous. You let New York win 1, you open the floodgates. I'll be so mad if this goes beyond 9 o'clock, though.
Go ahead, Sia.
Can I just say something? I was looking up DA Points just now. He played in the 2024 Butterfield Bermuda Championship in like last November, and he was T20 at the 2023 Butterfield Bermuda Championship.
Like
I mean-
when he plays, he's either pretty good or really bad. And
That's
there's
what it
really
looks
not
like
a whole lot
here.
of in between.
Yeah.
See, any matchup plays that you saw earlier in the show? Anything you want to?
There was one I was considering. It's a round 1 3-ball. I'm not there yet, but it was Taylor Moore over Kurt Kitayama and Nick Dunlap. It's a round 1 3-ball, goes off Thursday morning. I really like Taylor Moore. I'm obviously not afraid of Nick Dunlap right now with what he's been doing. Kurt Kitayama, obviously, once he gets out of Florida, does he return to some of that good form? That's where the question lies. But I think I'm going to take that because the number on Taylor Moore there is plus 140, and I do like that number.
And don't forget to watch the early edge tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. See you. We'll have